Meanwhile, at least one person killed and another 24 injured in a Russian strike on a residential block in the southeast. It follows another strike by Russia earlier this week, which killed 23 people, including 7 children. The has been blocked from attending the United Nations Annual Assembly in New York this month. The leader, along with 80 other Palestinian officials, have had been revoked by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It's the latest step by President Trump's administration to target Palestinians with visa restrictions. The entire villages in Pakistan have been submerged in what officials are calling the worst flood emergency in decades. Nearly 300,000 people have been evacuated as crews work to rescue stranded families in the densely populated eastern Punjab province.
Now the floods are going through central Punjab, and they're causing a lot of devastation there. But what we're most worried about are 2 points. One is called Tremel, where a bunch of rivers come together, about 2 feet, and then Punjab, where all 5 rivers come together. And that's the point where we expecting that there may be there are million cubics of water flowing, and that would cause a lot of flooding.
The angry mob has set fire to a local parliament building in Indonesia, leaving at least 3 people dead and 5 others in hospital. The blaze in South Sulawesi province follows days of protest against police violence, politicians' wages, and rising inflation. 2 paramedics have been injured in a crash in Kent. It happened in Gillingham around 9 o'clock last night, when the car being pursued by police left the N2 motorway and collided with an ambulance. Members of the crew were both taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 men and a teenage boy were arrested on suspicion of driving offences, including causing serious injury by dangerous driving. President MSP Colin Smith has denied allegations he placed a secret camera in the toilets of the Scottish Parliament. He's been charged by police in relation to the allegation, according to the PA news agency. His passport Holyrood was deactivated on Thursday. A US appeals court has ruled the majority of President Trump's global tariffs are unconstitutional, but has said that they can remain in place for now. It upheld that he was not legally allowed to declare national emergencies and impose import taxes on almost every country. Let's get more on this with the founder of Explain Trade, Dmitry Gorobinsky. Good to have you with us. What do you think this is going to do to the president? What do you think this is going to mean for the way he operates now?
I mean, I think at most it will be an inconvenience. This court ruling, which will still go to the Supreme Court, fundamentally takes one and by far the most convenient tool the president has to threaten and impose tariffs, makes it harder to use, but the president has considerable authority, and fundamentally he has a Congress that is not particularly jealous of its authority when it comes to imposing tariffs, and so he can do quite a lot.
And he also has the Supreme Court, 3 of whose justices he put on the bench.
Indeed, and on any Supreme Court case, it's always very hard to predict which way they will go when something like executive authority comes up against sort of the unitary executive theory and so on. This isn't my area. I'm not going to prejudge how that case would go. But even in a scenario where the Supreme Court rules against him and limits some of what he can do under AIPA, and I should clarify your comments earlier, the court didn't decide he's not allowed to declare economic emergencies. What it basically said was that the way that he did it in this case and the tariffs that he justified by doing it, he didn't go about it the right way. So they may put some more impediments in his way, but fundamentally this isn't the only tool he has to impose tariffs without Congress, and it's unlikely that it will ever be taken away.
What do you think the markets will make of this? Because it's always said, isn't it, that they kind of love stability, they love to know where they stand. And even if they don't like the tariffs, they at least kind of moving you lie of the land. This, like you say, might put impediments up in the way, it might kind of cause a bit of roadblocks, but it's not going to bring any clarity to the trading relationship, is it?
That's absolutely right. If you were uncertain last week, and I think that's probably the wise position to be, you're just as uncertain after this ruling. And in fact, I think you'll be pretty much just as uncertain even if the Supreme Court ruling goes your way. At the end of the day, I think stability and predictability are going to be hard to come by these next couple of years.
And for the countries on the receiving end of all this, what would their analysis be of this situation?
I mean, this is obviously a good sign for them, but they wouldn't be breathing a huge sigh of relief by any means. At the end of the day, even if the reciprocal tariffs are upheld as legal, and so the Trump administration has to get rid of them, they still have tools to declare entire sectors sensitive to national security, and they have other ways to impose tariffs on specific countries. So I think other countries would be looking at this with a little bit of optimism, but also knowing that at the end of the day, they cannot afford to roll the dice on angering the Trump administration too much, because the bear has been inconvenienced, but it has not been defanged, and it's unlikely to be.
Lots of countries, lots of economists, lots of central banks have kind of decried this situation ever since that so-called Liberation Day, where Donald Trump produced that board. It looks a little bit akin to a game show at one point, when he's kind of running through the numbers in the countries. What's your analysis, though, from his perspective, of how he thinks this has probably gone over the last few months? Will he think that these tariffs have done what he wanted them to have achieved?
I think from his perspective, they have achieved part of what he wants, which is that every time he announces a new tariff threat, every time he announces a new set of tariffs, all sorts of powerful actors head to the White House to negotiate with him, and he's in a position of strength in those talks. And that applies both to countries and to blocs as large as the European Union, and frankly to individual companies that have business before the government or they're exposed to tariffs. So from that perspective, it's working well. He's gotten